This is Fractal Design Node 304. With 6 hard drive bays, super quiet fans, support for full-size ATX power supplies, and a very attractive price, it's no wonder that the Node 304 remains one of the most popular cases for small form factor NAS builds, even 11 years after its initial release in 2012. Since then, there have been a lot of similar cases that promise to be more compact, more sleek, more dense, but there's just nothing as versatile and well-rounded as the good old Node 304. Sure, it doesn't have hot swap hard drive bays, doesn't support micro ATX motherboards, and maybe isn't as small as some of the competitors, but its lack of bells and whistles is exactly what makes it so inexpensive, reliable, and easily available, unlike most of the competitors. I love this case and can talk about it forever. And no, Fractal Design obviously didn't pay me to show their 11-year-old case. That would be a terrible idea because you'd actually have to pay me to shut the f up and stop talking about it. So in order to counterbalance that, let's talk about the negatives. Because let's face it, the Node 304 is not perfect. Even though it has ample space for full-sized hard drives, there's nowhere to mount 2.5-inch SSDs, which is a shame because there is technically plenty of space for them. When it comes to cooling, the Node 304 comes with 140mm fan at the back and 2 90mm fans at the front. And these basically have to pull air through this teeny tiny fan mesh right here. Despite there being a ton of space for an airflow mesh at the front, Fractal Design decided to go with a solid front panel, for whatever reason. Most of the time, the 90mm fans should be enough to cool your storage, but personally I've had a couple of situations where my SATA SSDs would actually overheat during a ZFS scrub. So today, we're going to fix these admittedly very minor issues and make this case go from
I mean, it's alright, like,
to
that's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Oh, and by the way, I will be making a complete home server build in this case pretty soon, so make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss it. And now, without further ado, let's get cooking. Let's start with the space for SSDs. I currently have 5 SSDs in my system, and in the stock configuration, there's no way to mount them inside the case. So I started looking online, and I found this 3D model on Thingiverse made by Dio Fantino. This lets you mount up to 6 2.5-inch SSDs in the case, and basically replaces one of the hard drive brackets. But since I have 4 hard drives in my build anyway, that's fine by me. If you still want to keep all the hard drive space, there's this model made by Wookbird, which lets you mount up to 4 additional SSDs at the back of the case. However, it might be a pretty tight fit, depending on the height of your CPU cooler and any PCIe devices that you might have installed. There's also nothing technically keeping you from using both the 6 and the 4 drive brackets in your system if you want to cram 10 SSDs in there. And as for the cooling, well, let me introduce you to the 200mm fan mod by Pixelwave. When I tell you that I literally soy-faced when I found this 3D model. It's a custom 3D printed front panel for the Node 304 that lets you get rid of the wimpy 90mm fans and replace them with Noctua's giant NF820. It doesn't look that big on the video, but here it is side by side with a standard 120mm fan. This thing is absolutely enormous, and the fact that you can put this into the Node 304 literally made me giggle like a little girl. So okay, that's all fine and well, but both of these things, the SSD bracket and the custom front panel, needed to be 3D printed, and I didn't have a 3D printer. So I asked Bambu Lab for help, and they agreed to send me this. This is Bambu Lab P1P, and this thing is amazing. I've had some experience with 3D printing in the past, and most of the printers that I've used felt like toys in comparison with the P1P. This thing is fast, like scary fast. I've printed a bunch of stuff with it, including some little boxes for my IKEA drawers, custom hooks for my IKEA pegboard, DIN rail adapters for some Shelly relays, and even a little Pepe, and the quality is really amazing. That's with no tuning, no tinkering with slicer settings, no manual bed leveling, no extruder calibrations or anything like that. It just worked. To be honest, if Bambu Lab didn't send it to me for free, I'd probably buy it anyway. So thank you guys a lot for helping me out with this project, and now let's get to printing. First thing I did was printing the SSD brackets using the white PLA that the printer came with. Mounting the SSDs onto the brackets took some time, most of which was spent looking for matching screws, but at the end I think it looks pretty good. And now I can finally put my 5 SSDs into the Node 304, and there's room for more. Now for the front panel. This one will be a bit more complicated. Not only is the model way bigger than the SSD bracket one, it also requires melting some parts of the print to integrate screw standoffs, and even take into the case from an angle grinder to make room for more airflow. And since that's the hardest part, let's do that first. This was my first time using an angle grinder, and I think the result came out alright. Sure, it's not perfectly straight, I mean, who among us? But since it will be covered by our custom front panel, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Then came the printing. The Bambu Lab P1P's print bed was just big enough to fit our new front panel and a little brim around it. It took a whopping 5 hours to print, which is still faster than most 3D printers out there that would need 20 plus hours for a model like that. As you can see, I was a bit too aggressive with my deburring tool, deburring? Oh, I hate English. As you can see, I was a bit too aggressive with my deburring tool here, but you don't really notice it unless you look close. The typical 3D print lines are still there on the sides, but the front actually looks perfect in my opinion. Doing the test fit, and the Noctua NF820 fits perfectly inside the panel. Now, even though a bare fan in front of the case looks very cool, I really wanted some kind of a filter to go in front, at least to protect fan blades when transporting the case. Pixelwave, the author of the custom front panel, has also designed some fan grill models to print out, but instead of doing that, I decided to use a generic PC dust filter. I bought one on Amazon, cut it to size, and put it between the fan and the custom front panel. I think it looks pretty cool. Last but not least, our front panel will also need a power button. I got this one from Amazon, and installing it was pretty easy. The tolerances on this model are so tight that the bottom is pretty much just being held by friction. And look at that! Our front panel is complete, and now it's finally time to install it onto the case. I've had some issues with fitting, since the standoffs on the model were designed around screw holes that the author actually drilled themselves. So I played a little bit with embedding magnets inside the printed model, but unfortunately, even when using a dozen of magnets, it just wasn't strong enough to hold the panel in place. For now, the panel is basically held on with the combination of magnets and putty, but if you know a better way to fit it onto the case while still being able to do some adjustments after the fact, let me know. Aside from the fitment issues, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. The airflow situation is definitely going to improve now, and the Noctua A20 is dead quiet. And also, I can finally fit all of my SSDs and run them at pretty decent temperatures. One thing that I would really like to do is cut another PCIe slot on the back, maybe around here. That way I'd also be able to mount my Blike AVM PCIe. But unfortunately, I don't have access to a CNC machine right now, so maybe that's something for another video. That's gonna be it for this one though. So thanks Bambu Lab for sending over your P1P, and a huge thanks to my patrons: James Eppington, Kevin Ware, Alessandro Colori, Carlos Bonilla, David Love, Jabastica, Moonlight Tofu, Robot's Dream of Crypto, and everyone else who supports this channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.